All right, we're going to go ahead and show you how to change your own oil on your Winnebago Revel or Mercedes Sprinter van. Mercedes recommends your first oil change at 20,000 miles, which I think is insane. I did the first one at 3,000. I figured that was kind of like a break-in oil scenario. Um, Basically, you want to get the rig up to temperature, drive it around for at least an hour, get it good and hot so that oil's thin and it's going to run out of that oil pan easier. You're going to need 14 quarts of oil, a new oil filter, filter wrench, adapter, 13 millimeter wrench or socket. You don't need ramps, don't need jacks. This thing sits up high enough. Just bring your oil collection device and get under there and take your 13 millimeter socket or wrench. It's going to be hot, but comes off. It's very straightforward. There's a washer, a copper washer that's going to be on that oil plug. You don't want to reuse that if you can avoid it. The oil change kit that I purchased came with a new plug and copper washer. But anyways, you're going to let that drain, and I ended up letting it drain overnight. I wanted to get as much oil out of that vehicle as I could. So shut it down, put a little sticker on there just in case I had an Alzheimer's moment and ran out to go do something. I didn't want to fire it up accidentally. And then let it sit overnight. Next morning, about 24 hours later, there's absolutely no oil dripping from the pan, and you've got about 13 and a half quarts of factory fill oil in your container now. So step one is make sure that container is empty, because you're going to fill it up almost completely with the crankcase oil. Now that you've done that, I'm going to open up the kit that I purchased from ECS. This came with 14 quarts of oil, as I mentioned, a new filter with both O-rings, and then it's got the plug and the copper washer. So that was $135 when I bought it. I think it's $150 now. So you put the copper washer on the plug, get your wrench, tighten it up. I'm sure there's a torque spec for this. I don't have it, so it's an aluminum pan, and you're not going to want to just go crazy with it. But if you've worked on cars, you kind of know when something's tight. And we got that on. Now you need to remove the oil filter. It's got basically it's a filter cartridge. So you need the wrench and the adapter for the oil filter housing, which I've already got in place there. And just kind of sneak through there and loosen that. You get it to the point where you can remove it by hand, but super straightforward. It's right there. It's not hard to access at all. And once you get it loose enough, you can by hand remove the housing and the adapter. You're going to drip a little bit of oil. You're going to make not a big mess. It's not a big deal. But when you get that out, you're going to want to go ahead and remove the used filter, which there you can see is completely black, and the two O-rings that are a part of that housing, which unfortunately with my GoPro it didn't quite show where those O-rings are, but there's a large one that goes around the housing itself to create a seal when you tighten it up, and then a little one that just goes in the center of the oil container, or the housing, I guess. Put a little bit of oil on both of those, slip them on, and then installation is the reverse of the removal. Just get that in there and hand start it, and then tighten it up with the ratchet. And you're not going to want to just crank on it. Just get it snug. You just don't want it to leak. It's a very positive system there with that O-ring. It's as long as you get it snug, you're fine. And now that you got that done, the next step is to go ahead and start filling it up with oil. Mercedes says it takes 13.2 quarts, I believe. You get 14 quarts. I ended up filling it with 12 quarts and then starting the vehicle and checking the gauge indicator and slowly adding oil until I got it to the point where I wanted. I've heard of some people putting in 13 and a half quarts and having it the display saying it's overfilled. I suspect a lot of times that's happening when people don't let it drain for more than an hour. They just let it drain for 45 minutes and then put the plug back in, and the residual oil in there I think is going to possibly contribute to that problem. So you don't want to overfill it, is what I'm saying. Start with 12, work your way up. You get back in the rig here, pull off the sticker so you can start your car now. I switched the display to the performance mode so it shows temperatures, and then you're going to want to switch your dashboard to display to show the oil level, since this vehicle does not have a dipstick of any kind. That's really the only way to check your oil. So you're going to start it up, let it warm up, and then I think we're getting to the oil level display. And once you've got that, I just let it run for about 5-10 minutes, kind of do a quick sweep to make sure there's no leaks, make sure all your caps are snug, and then after that 5 or 10 minutes I shut it off, and I think I added a quarter of a quart. I drove it around and came back, and I think I added a little bit more. I ended up right at about 13 quarts. But yeah, it's a super easy thing to do yourself. It's going to save you a lot of money rather than going to a dealership, and I think it's cheap insurance. I mean, that engine's the most expensive part of your vehicle, and a couple of $150 oil changes can really extend the life of your vehicle. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and reset the oil service through the computer on the Mercedes. I'm not going to try and do that on this video. I'm going to leave a link on how you do that, but it's super easy. And once you do that, it shows that your service has been complete, and now I think the next one is going to be a B service, which I'm going to elect to do my next oil change at 10,000, and going forward, that's just going to be my interval. So anyhow, hope this video helped you out. I would highly recommend you do this yourself, and thank you for watching.